Still with us?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. All right, we should be good. So, Bill, go ahead.
Okay. Got the floor back despite the technical gremlins attempts to derail that. So Abby Tank is with our office, is a recent graduate of Southern Illinois University Law School and was sworn in November 17th. So was an official lawyer person now. And, maybe tell them a little bit about where you're from and your connections to Central Illinois.
Oh, sure. I'm from Loyalville, Illinois, a really small town north of Springfield. I don't know if you've heard of it, but I moved to Peoria, closer to my family. My grandparents have lived here my whole life. So, yeah, I'm originally from around here.
Oh, good. Well, welcome aboard, Abby.
Thank you. It's nice to meet you.
In front of you, everybody should have a copy of the December 6th meeting minutes.
You guys flew through that meeting.
Yeah, you weren't here.
I was gonna say, who was here?
Yeah, when you guys aren't here, things go really smooth.
What was that, a Christmas party?
Which was just ripping.
Oh, yeah. I watched the recording that last night. Go right to sleep.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the meeting
So
minutes.
moved.
Second.
Motion by Johnson, second by Sidak. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same. Motion carried.
Just FYI, Danny Pearson joined us too.
Danny, we see you're on. Are you just here to observe?
Yeah, I'm just watching.
Okay. Thanks, Danny. Treasurer's report.
Everybody should have a copy. Nothing out of the ordinary. Any questions? Let me know.
Any of you are praying people, we have now cut the cord with Locus 7 and we're on Locus 8 solely, so hopefully things go well.
As of yesterday.
I'll make the motion to approve the treasurer's report, pay all outstanding bills. Second.
Motion by Chair Bali, second by Sidak. Okay. Any further discussion? Roll call then. Weaver,
Yes.
Pearson,
Yes.
Chair Bali,
Yes.
Sidak,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Motion carried. It's been a long time I could say this. Mr. Lott, you're in the house.
And yet you managed to continue on, right?
Yes. Barely.
I don't have anything formal really to report. I saw, Brian, that you had reported that we will meet after the first of the year to go into the master plan related to the roads for MFT to begin to get that going and again an early start, which seemed to really pay off last year. So we certainly intend to continue that momentum next year with respect to the roads and MFT. The only other comment I think I'd make, looking forward to the discussion on the long-term plan. This is exciting stuff.
Yeah.
I'm
glad you're here.
And I'll withhold there. This is a great opportunity, I think, to begin to take steps to align short-term and long-term planning. Happened to be in a meeting yesterday. We're talking about some big picture stuff, and we all agreed, everybody in the room, that this is great. It'll never happen in our lifetimes, but that's the sort of planning that's sometimes important. So.
Jeff and Zachary now.
I might not make it to the MFT program. Baby steps. So that's all I have. I look forward to further discussion.
Thank you, Brandon. Mr. Connor?
I'm muting. There we go. I really have nothing to report, but we want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a good New Year, and look forward to seeing you more frequently. Any
Thank
questions?
you. Merry Christmas to you guys. And, if there's anything that you see we're doing wrong, make sure you let us know.
Absolutely.
Mr. Administrator, Brian.
Okay, so November 22-23 fiscal year, this is month 7. Slide 1, November core funds. So again, remember to follow the blue column down. So our income was 87,562 and our expenses were 102,259. So we were negative 14,697 for the month. And that's really a budgeting issue. Basically, we had $22,000 of insurance costs that hit us. So workers' comp, liability, all of that kind of stuff. So next year we're going to try to budget for that just specifically in November rather than spread it out over the whole year. So that way it'll look better. But so $22,000 for insurance is what put us under. If you look at the next slide, then you can see general was 10,000 under. The insurance had an impact of 13K there. Water was 2,300 negative. Insurance was a 4.7 impact there, and garbage was 2.6 under, and that had an impact 4.7 of insurance negative impact there as well. MFT, really nothing to report. I think all the expenses are in and done, and we just continue to get income each month. TIF, definitely nothing to report. BDD, we're down a little bit, 12,000 income for the month, but no expenses. So again, another really positive month for BDD. So again, for the summary for the month, we were negative 14,697, but all of that was really due to the one-time insurance fees, which will change in the budget structure for next year. Go to the next slide, and this is the core funds. And if you remember, this is the all-in. So if you remember at the beginning of the year, we bought the skid steer, we created the sewer and transferred money from water to sewer. So all of that is in these numbers, which skews them. But the 278,104 would be the actual positive variance thus far. You back out the 81,000 for the ARPA funds that came in, then we would be at 197,104. So that's a true number, that 197,104. It has all the one-time only stuff in it, but that's really a true number for where we are through the first 7 months. Then if you look at the next slide, it's just the detailed breakdown of that. So you can see water is negative, and sewer is way positive. Again, it was due to the transfers and buying the skid steer, all of that kind of stuff. So what I do then is you look at the next slide, the adjusted. I try to back out all of those one-time only things just to see how we actually performed operationally for the month. So our income was 845, 851 year to date, and our expenses are 615, 822. So a positive variance of 230, 029. If you take out all the one-time only things. And then if you look at the next slide, I think the key important thing here on the next slide, if you break it out into general unemployment, water, sewer, garbage, and sanitation, you can see that even water is positive if you back out all the one-time only stuff. So if I kind of cleanse it of the one-time only things, you can see we're positive on each of the different areas within the funds. Year-to-date, MFT, I think all of our expenses are in, and we continue to gain on the income side. So nothing really there. Income on TIF, 26,427, expenses 4607. But remember, we'll have to give back 80% of the residential incremental at some point. So that'll impact those numbers. BDD year to date, we're 108, 806 to positive. That includes the money that we got back from the Park District. So the year-to-date summary, our positive variance is 197,104, and that's excluding the 81,000 from the ARPA, which is now in savings. We're operationally positive in all areas, and if you take out the capital, so 14,000 times 7 months, we're still about $100,000 positive. So operationally, we paid all our bills. Put money into savings, into the capital, and we've still got about $100,000 to the year to date. Cash, obviously we had a negative month, but checking is currently at 844,888. You've got the details on the sheet, the spreadsheet that's right there behind it. We had a monthly variance of negative 9473 in checking, but again, that was the insurance. Year-to-date variance is positive. Savings, we've got $1,097,874, and our total cash is $1,942,762. That's it, unless you have a question.
Any questions?
Believe it or not, we'll begin working on the next budget probably in 30 days. So.
We're 7 months out of the year, right?
Yeah. Trying to figure what they're going to be. Let me take.
Committee reports?
Hold on one second. Take 100,000 divided by 7 times 12, so 171 maybe, depending if everything stays the same between now and the end of the year. It may not. I don't think we have quite as much. I don't think we have big property tax or anything else coming in, so it might be lower than that. But we should have $100,000+ in cash. And to get the end of the year, this year, I don't think we've got anything. Last year, we had things we wanted to go spend it on. I think this year the question will be is where do we allocate it on the capital side?
So do we just have 85,000 in savings?
I'm sorry?
You just have that ARPA money in savings, you said?
That's sitting, part of the savings, but that's not all that's in savings.
Yeah, if you look at the
Cashes in the
spreadsheet, so the top part of the spreadsheet here, the top part of the spreadsheet are the checking accounts. So you have the operating checking account. Right now, if you go over and look at November, we have 415,896 in that, and then you can see the breakdown of what underneath it, where those dollars are. MFT, TIF, and BDD, and then we've got 107 in the IEPA loan. And then if you go down and look at savings at the end of November, buildings and grounds has 14, trails got 165, streets has got 348, water towers got 221, capital water general capital's got 123. Sewer general capital's got 141, and the sanitation or the lagoon has 83.
Took a couple of your next slides away from me there, didn't
No, you're
I?
good.
By making the answer to those.
No, you're good. It's all good.
Committee reports?
Yeah, just a long-range capital plan draft Brian put together. I'm gonna let him run through the slides and then I'll jump in at the end.
Okay, so really at this point, we're not gonna. I don't think we're gonna make detailed decisions. What I'm really looking for from you guys, I think, is just a general reaction to where we are. If there's any obvious things you think we might want to do differently, or strategically how we might look at things differently. But a kind of a big picture view at this point. We've obviously got work to do eventually to break it all down into detailed projects. But I wanted to start on the operational side. So currently our income covers our current expenses. That's true for every account, every utility. We're positive. We have an annual income budgeted of $1,217,963 and an annual expense of $1,449,840. The difference is $168,000, which is about $14,000 a month that we allocate to capital or to savings. So streets, we're putting $5,000 a month away. Water, we're putting $3,500 away, $1,000 to the tower, and $2,500 to general capital, which would be water lines or new water lines. Sewer, we're also putting $3,500 away, $2,500 for the current IEPA loan, which did basically half of the relining of the sewers. We're putting about $1,000 a month in general capital. Buildings and grounds, we're putting $2,000 a month away. In sanitation, we're currently putting $0 in there. And again, we can make whatever adjustments to this that you want. I've broken them out then in detail. So streets capital. So our current balance in streets, and the number won't match directly with the spreadsheet I just gave you because I ran these numbers off last month. But roughly, we have $344,000 currently in our street account, and 101 in MFT, which is $445,000 total. Our estimated annual capital allocation is to spend around $60,000 on streets, $47K in MFT, about $107,000 total. We've been under that for the last couple of years, but that's what we originally put out there. We built a 5-year program rotating every street, so every street gets touched or done every 5th year is what the plan is. And then we also did select sidewalk enhancements. So our estimated annual spend, the estimated annual capital allocation is the budget. $60,000 we're putting away a year for streets, and then $47,000 coming in for MFT. So the total amount coming in is $107. We built the 5-year plan, and we estimated to annually spend $80,000 And then we put $27,000 back into savings for an eventual major project if we have to go and redo a whole street at some level. So that's the way the streets capital is built. If you look at water capital, our current balance is $220,000 for the tower and $121K in general capital. The project is, we thought, it's roughly around $2 million. We had 10% if it was a grant or something in there, so we decided that we were going to put a ton more money into the tower side of things. But we have $341,000 total. We're putting another $12,000 into the tower and $30,000 into general capital, so $42,000 total. The stuff that we have is we've got the new water tower, roughly a $2 million project. I don't know if we have leak correction. We don't know what that's going to be, and if we wanted to put in new lines and repair lines, I think we were talking about $1 million, but that was just wild stab. I think questions we have is, do we do the water tower? And obviously we could find a grant, we would do it, but grants, we look all the time, and we've got people helping us look. Economically, we're just not a town that meets those requirements to get a grant. So probably a low interest loan is our best option. And that's right now, the last I talked to him, and it's been a month or two, was 3.5%. And then there would be some forgiveness if we did USDA. Do we want to engage another leak detection service? Jim's found some people in Iowa that he thinks might be pretty good, so that might be worthwhile to do that. How important is it to enlarge or expand our lines or to loop them? Is kind of a general question.
Our biggest hindrance to growth, Brandon, is the water tower and the size of the lines, particularly the size of the lines at the edge of town.
What are they at the edge of town right now?
Depends on where you're at. Some are very, very small.
4s and 6s.
The 4s, yeah.
Yeah.
Biggest is there's 12, but most of it's 10. And talking about trunk lines and
Yeah.
go ahead. You're saying what I'm going to say. Good call.
Exactly. I knew. Yeah, exactly. I knew this was going to come. I mean, the tower is the most long-term fix, along with the water lines and everything else, because it makes sense to put a new tower up and then start at the tower and start expanding your lines as you go out from there once you got a new tower in. You can't start at the edge of town and start replacing the small lines with big lines because you don't have any water coming to them, so it doesn't do any good. And that's the most long-term thing. I know we keep talking about wait until the EPA makes us put it up, but this is our most long-term project as far as fixing the lines in town and getting pressure and volume to the edge of town will take a while to do. And in the meantime, everybody's talking about promoting growth. Well, you're not going to be able to just instantly get water to the edge of town if somebody has a spot they wanted to do something. It's going to take a while to do it. I think even over lining sewers and everything else, I think we seriously look at the tower. I mean, the lining sewers you can do at the drop of a hat, essentially. But
Placing the tower will probably also help you find leaks.
exactly, and that was another point I was going to bring up. I mean, eventually you'll find some of them. If you just get on a program of putting the tower in and replacing lines, eventually you'll run across it, even if it's just by luck.
Yeah.
And it may be a death of 1,000 cuts that's our leak out there. We may not be looking for a big leak. We've tried 2 or 3 times. It may just be a general seepage over the system, in aggregate.
That increased pressure might give us a few flags to look at.
Yeah, when you put up a new tower, you'll find some bigger leaks then pretty quickly as you start ramping the pressure up. Yeah. So will homeowners in the town will all find those spots that were hanging on by a thread. Yeah. I don't know. That's my thoughts on the towers. The longer we push it off, the longer that end result of getting the edge of town better suited to growth and better serving the customers is pushed out way down the line.
So let's say we had to borrow 1.5 to do the tower.
So is there property for growth?
There's empty fields all around town.
Yeah, but people own them.
Well,
they
they'll sell them for the right price.
They'll sell them for the right price to a developer.
If somebody thinks they can put 10 lots in, that's the price per acre is a lot more than the farmgrounds,
Put in apartments.
Yeah. Doesn't have to be. There won't be 80 homes. It would be like 5 homes or a duplex. I mean, it'd be something small, but it would be, there's spots you just probably couldn't do it. I don't know. But if I had $1.5 million loan to take out, I would take it for the tower as opposed to lining sewers. Brandon, what do you think?
That's your job.
Yeah,
There
can rate
are
it.
a lot of issues, and
Just because there's way more dominoes ahead of that tower than there's lining the sewer.
Are you playing defense against the EPA, making them go away with something they're requiring you do?
Yeah.
10 years ago we were. Now I don't know that they're hollering at you, so we've kind of kicked the can down the road.
Yeah. But we need it. They're not wrong.
Yeah, they're not wrong.
I mean, we're drastically undersized storage wise.
So in the meantime, you've allocated some dollars towards it, looked for grants, and done some other projects. I think the layer that needs to be put on here is the comprehensive plan. What do you want to be? Do you want to grow? A lot of this is you're doing a very good job of taking care of what's in front of you now and putting money back for a 5-year project, 5-year program. But do you want to grow? Do you want an industrial complex on the east side or west side of town? Do you have an area where you want to encourage residential growth? Are you looking for parklands, connections to natural resources, connections to other communities? The rail line, do you want to grow east-west or north-south? And then once you identify that, what is it that's in your way from doing that? Is it a water line? Do you have sanitary capacity? Do you have pump station problems? And so that layer of growth, you use that word right away, that kind of dictates where you would put these things. You've got the buckets established. What do you do inside of those buckets? And maybe do you move money around? I think growth and where do you want to be in 5, 10, 20 years helps drive that.
Sure.
Because if you decide you want to put the industrial park on the west side of town, water lines, because you can't serve them the way
If you want to put 20 more homes on one side of town, you need a water line. That's not even get crazy. The industrial complex isn't going to come here. Let's just talk realistic, like 10 homes or 15 homes or,
let's just say,
Denise needs one now.
or just to adequately serve who's in town. Now we know we have people with some lower pressure in town,
and that's what
we know we have insufficient storage there. If something were to happen and we didn't have Illinois American's water main on for 24 hours, we're out of water in the summertime, probably within 15 hours, 12 hours, depending on the day.
So what do we do tomorrow? Does that change how you allocate funds today? And that's the piece that's, I think, a next step. This is, you're allocating funds to be able, and I think you'll agree, you're very flexible. You're able to move these things around if you need to. If something were to come up, if the EPA came down, if all of a sudden the lagoons needed dredged for some reason. The regulatory climate also does dictate these things. Who knows what's coming out next? You've got to add a filter to remove dimethyl bad stuff, and who knows. So those sorts of things to be able to have money allocated for, but it's the growth layer that I think might dictate the next steps.
And if you did have somebody needing water at the edge of town and the tower is up, you could, express replace. Then you could replace an arterial line that goes out to that to serve it. But until then, you don't have that ability to push something forward because you don't have the capacity to do it.
Yeah, I mean, even in subdivisions like out off of Hannah City, Glassford, the Court Street, the short street that we have there. If someone wanted to expand that and put in 8 more homes to the entire length of Center Street,
that'd be a natural place to go. The street's 4 houses long on each side. If you wanted to make it 8 houses long on each side, just push the street a little farther because you already have a street there and you already have utilities.
Right, but I'm saying as far as pressure and stuff, what's that going to impact the system? Because I know I lived on Center Street, which is only a block over, and the pressure wasn't the greatest.
Yeah, double the pull from it then.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're having to push it further out.
Yeah.
So $2 million, let's say we do USDA loan, get some forgiveness. I just use 1.5 at 4% over 30 years is almost $7,200 a month. So it's a 50% increase in our current capital allocation. You see my point?
You did over how many years?
30, assuming we could get it.
You can't go 30 on IEPA.
You sure?
Yes.
That's what we went
I
on.
thought it was 20.
20 is the max.
I think it's a 20 we did for the sewer lining, isn't it?
So
But the sewer lines, how close? That's what's got a couple $100,000.
But USDA, I think we can.
maybe, yeah.
Oh,
If we get approved for that, yeah.
Well, should we start allocating more funds?
I don't think that's
To
what
begin
matters.
with?
yeah. At this
Well,
point, I think
no,
you're going to
I
have a
mean,
loan
if we-
When
payment.
you're talking the water tower, it doesn't matter as much because we got to put the amount we're putting away now away for the next 20 years just to pay for it. So we're going to have to get a loan or bond for it to begin with.
And then if you do it, then there's downstream impact, right? Because you're gonna, to your point, you're gonna have to replace some water lines probably, and you're gonna have to increase the size of water lines. Is that another $1 million?
Well, you can't. I mean, the lines could stay there, but then you have the ability to move out and expand. Start at the source of the water and start replacing lines, increasing lines, and then look, and
It's like
Farnsworth can then model and say, okay, this is what you have for capacity. I mean, you already got a set of plans on it for the tower. You already have a decent
have line
idea.
replacement locally. It wasn't all the way, but there was quite a bit of it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, because we were going to redo this whole thing. The bulk water, the mains coming out of it. You were going to have nice big mains coming out. Then from there, yeah, exactly. And then from there,
Do you think you'd get less than 4%?
Yeah, but the existing neighborhoods, we wouldn't have to change up because they're.
Well, to get water to the edge of town, you do.
Well, I'm saying going this way, but the main lines that we have going that way.
Yeah,
we know we have to increase this.
Unless you do find out that you're going to find leaks. I mean, right off the way, you're going to find leaks as soon as you start ramping that pressure up.
What are the chances we have water that's leaking going into our sewer system? High. So, I mean, and then increasing the water pressure, that could also hurt the lagoon too, right?
Well, you'll find those leaks hopefully, and then, hopefully if they get bigger, they come to the surface then and they start, chewing themselves a hole instead of just seeping out.
But Jim really wants to do this leak detection thing, right? And they said they couldn't hear a lot. Well, we have a lot of low pressure. The pressure's higher, might make more noise, and we do another leak detection. It might be easier to find that way too.
Yeah.
I had a long discussion with John Vazzetti. I don't know if you've ever come across him. He's with Bernardi Securities. They've done work in Farmington and all municipalities is their big thing. I worked with them at the school level at Limestone, but when I asked him, he obviously, he's a salesman, but he said that I asked him, why would we ever bond instead of getting one of these IEPA loans or one of these USDA loans? And basically he said that you can bond up to 30 years, which is obviously a big benefit. And you are looking at maybe 1 to 1.5% more in interest, still probably being under 5 at this point right now for a couple $1 million, that is.
What would the rate be?
4 to 4.5, roughly. And, he sees a lot of people, with an older mind or an older way of thinking, spending a lot of their capital on big projects. And it's kind of silly when you could get an interest rate from 3.5 to 4.5. And I mean, right now, CDs, I think, are the big money market at the time. The only thing that's really making anything, and they're getting upwards of 5%. So with a lot of the money we're putting away, I think we could make more on it than we'd even be paying in interest with any of the loans we got. But like I said, the benefits was bonding up to 30 years. And with a bond, you can adjust your pay plan according to what's going on in the village at the time. We're not stuck to that monthly, yearly rate that we would be set in with the IEPA or not. But those were a few of them.
So let's play that out. So if, let's say we had $2 million for the water tower, $1 million for the remaining sewer, right? $1 million for, is $1 million for the water lines enough? Or
depends on what you want to do.
We'll spend it.
Yeah, I mean, yes, you could spend $1 million and get a good start.
Give me order of magnitude. We're just back of the envelope here, but should it be $2 million?
No, I think $1 million is again, since you don't know where you're going. Maybe you're trying to set up a backbone, maybe.
Yeah.
Make what you have as strong as it can be with an eye towards the future. But if you don't know that everything's going to happen out west and you need to put a 16-inch in.
My point is,
the goal would be to fortify the system. Like you said, improve the backbone in town. Make sure the main trunk lines are solid. I mean, you're going to find some that need replaced with leaks and stuff, and work out from the tower and just start pumping everything where it needs to be to, going north you're not going to do because you run into, woods and ravines and the sewer plant and everything. But, you can just look at that and say, are we set? But then the other directions you can we know we need to be bigger in all directions just to get good pressure to who's there and to allow for even moderate growth.
If we were going to do everything.
I think $1 million is half, not one.
Okay, so $1 million water, $1 million sewer, $2 million for the water tower. That's $4 million.
Yeah.
Okay. That isn't the only thing that we're already doing. Streets.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have anything on the lagoon. I'm not there yet, but we don't have anything on the lagoon. But there's not any huge needs anytime soon.
And the streets with a 5-year rotation should be more than plenty, and hopefully you can start
I think
skipping some
the
of those.
high end is, his opinion was that he doesn't think anything's going up nor down. He said the price of milk, the chemicals in the cornfields, he doesn't think anything's going to change drastically in any direction for the next year.
So he did 4 million.
Obviously, he said he'd be a multimillionaire if he knew that for sure.
What do you want me to put in for the interest rate?
4.5, I would say, at the high end. And with a bond, I believe you could resell. You can almost change the interest rate years down the road. IEPA would be locked in whatever they give us for all time, but so you could be hopeful that the next election or something may bring a drop in interest rates. But these are not high interest rates, really. I mean, the past year or two, they
20
are.
grand, 21 grand. With no forgiveness, so let's take so 252 a year.
On top of whatever we're already paying.
Well, we could go a little more and knock that one out. I don't know what the interest rate is on that. You said it's low.
I mean, we're putting 168,000.
Yeah,
One point.
that.
Yeah.
How much?
We're putting 168,000 a year now. 14,000
is the interest.
Right, and even if we invest half of that and get 5% off it, I mean, there's definitely an angle to go there. That's your one benefit, stretching to 30 years. And obviously the approval process for getting a bond there isn't one compared to IEPA and USDA, but no forgiveness, like you said. But like I said, if times get tough for us, we can change that number. Something does pop up unexpected, we can give them less with a chance of our interest rate dropping in the future.
Well, I guess the other thing we got to think about is maybe we wouldn't want to touch it, but we have $341,000 in water capital.
You know,
We're putting 42,000.
Any major project I've ever been a part of, there's always $500,000 at least of stuff you've never seen coming. I mean, that's just, really, with the, no offense to you,
Well,
the best engineers there are, there's always something.
yeah. Well, I mean, that'd be 25% overgrown on the tower, so it would be. I don't know. I would predict the tower would be pretty.
God forbid another COVID
pretty safe.
spell
I mean,
or
it's
something
not
changes everything.
It's a pretty rock solid. I don't know. I mean, the chance of it going 500,000 difference on the tower would be pretty slim, I imagine. On a $2 million job.
Yeah, I can't speak with any authority. I mean, that estimate's
Yeah.
3 years old.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. And everything's more expensive now, so we'd have to revisit that number for sure.
I could put that underneath Joe's nose, but
Not yet.
or just ask him add 5 or 10 or 20%. What do you think?
Well, let's just pause here for a second. What kind of appetite is there for swinging for the fence? And
I have no appetite for it.
Just let it rot away. So you put a phone in its head and move out of town when it runs
I
out.
would like to have a lot of the grant money, just,
Have what now?
federal grant money.
My opinion, even the grant money, these the smaller dollars, there's always going to be
I
something.
think
to
we
spend
missed
on
the
anyway.
COVID gravy train. I mean, to be honest with you.
Well, and the biggest thing is our medium income is too high for a lot of the federal grants.
So we don't,
Yeah.
we don't,
And
we
I've-
just don't.
And I've talked to people about that, with us being so close to Peoria, that's what kills us. Even though we're a rural community, we're still within striking distance of Peoria. So we get absorbed into Peoria County and we get into that medium where, we make too much,
Yeah.
which my bank doesn't show that. So,
Yeah.
Neither do
We're not in
mine.
poor financial shape either, so.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They look at our books, they don't see that we're like destitute. So
The other thing we can think about, and I'm getting ahead on these other slides, but it's great conversation, is eventually, we are getting a significant amount of money coming in for BDD. We got $108,000 this year. we want to we can allocate some of that to infrastructure. Yeah, come on, Zach can start. Well, that's your job. You fight against that, right? I mean, that's what that constructive conflict is good. And then eventually TIF's going to generate something if we can, it's going to take some years.
Well, we have 5, 10, 15, 16, 17 payments of capital, money sitting capital, 340,000. If you're 20,000 a month payments.
Well, we got more than that because if you look at sewer, we've got another 246.
Yeah, I was just thinking the 340 capital and waters,
And then we've got buildings and grounds. We've got 100 and almost another 200,000 if you take the trail money and reallocate it. I mean,
There's a reason they're not giving you a grant.
Yeah, so you got if you leave the trail money out and you just take the water and sewer capital, you have 2.5 years of payment sitting there. That you wouldn't have to necessarily touch. You can just leave that sitting there, and then if times do get tough, you can start supplementing the payments with that money. If you can't take it straight out of,
We could definitely be making money off of some of our money.
Well, there's a
we're through the
limit
change
to
in the
what we
last
can do with.
8 months. I think that's a change to some degree in the last 8
It
months. Or maybe the last 3 months. You're right. I mean, we used to have CDs and stuff that we were doing things with. But agreed, there's probably things.
Yeah,
we can
they
do.
went down to nothing, I believe.
Yeah, some of our CDs were making nothing on checking accounts. We're getting more.
Yeah.
That's why we closed them.
Yeah.
Okay,
Where
so
were you thinking
the only
we
person that
could
answered my
invest
question
our
on
money?
how big of an appetite you have to swing for the fence was.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say
Denise.
we're
She had
limited to
zero.
CD, so
Oh, I remember that.
Well, she has a 0.5%.
Whoa, that might even
And
be
again,
too
we're,
high.
again, we're not making a decision right now, but I guess the question is are you leaning more towards let's just.
Well, you were scared of the EPA, and now you might not be because they just kind of whisper it to Jim every time they come to town, right? They haven't really pushed anything.
But all of a sudden,
I mean,
you could
that-
be to one of those points where, hey, this.
This is the year, but they're going to give you a couple years. I mean, they can't.
they've given us 20 years on the
But our
water tower.
residents do comment on Facebook about the water pressure.
Yeah, I'm not scared of the EPA telling us we need a new tower. That didn't even register to me about why we would do it. I'm just looking at purely the water system itself. The EPA sent us the same letter for 20 years and they never act on it. They just want to remind us our tower's small. That has nothing to do with this decision whatsoever.
guess
I don't
the
think they're ever going to put their foot down and make us spend the money. But
the other
I
thing
think
to
we
keep in
need
mind
to.
is probably a year from now, and push back if you disagree with this, but things are going to be cheaper than they are today, I would guess. I mean, we're recession bound, right?
We're going to need a big one. A big recession, yeah.
There is still
I don't know
not
the
enough materials out
I don't
there.
think interest rates necessarily going to change. I was thinking
Yes.
the cost to construct or build
Yes.
might go down.
It
Do
could.
you disagree?
No, not necessarily. I mean,
You seen a
the
little
few people
Yeah,
I've talked to have said, I mean, once stuff goes up, it just doesn't.
I don't
come
think
back
we're
down.
going back to pre-COVID, but I think it's going to be lower a year and a half from now.
It's going to be based on supply and demand.
I just
as it
once-
always is.
I've always said it at my bar and restaurant, chicken went up to 140, so I raised my price on chicken. Chicken's back down to $60 a case. I didn't lower my price on chicken. I mean, it just doesn't come back down once they're making that
But
money.
you would if enough people stopped buying.
Yes. Yes. I don't know if there's enough of people employed to eat it. It's going to be a weird recession. There's already so many people unemployed, so I don't know. I think that's kind of part of where his opinion came from. He thinks about a year from now, because I asked him, bonding today, do we hurry up and rush one or an IEPA loan or something, or what happens if we wait a year? And he said, wanting to sell something so bad, he still said, I don't think it's going to make a difference.
But we don't necessarily just have to wait, right? We could build detailed plans for water, sewer, right? And get
You
more.
could, and that was the other piece of the puzzle with the water tower. One, it was trying to keep the EPA happy. Two, was trying to take advantage of shovel ready.
yeah,
So that's why we put the plans together. They're on the shelf, it's shovel ready. If a grant came, you don't have to wait.
Right.
yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so many of them, you have to have that
Right.
anyway. You have to be able to prove that you can do the project anyway.
But knowing we have no grant, now we got to have the money.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was the other reason that was accelerated and then didn't go anywhere.
Makes sense.
And so, yeah, to your point, you could, and again, some of this study, I'm not looking for you want to spend money on.
Speak your mind.
Well, you want to spend money on steel and pipes and roads, not thoughts. But it will require thoughts to be able to say what is the smartest thing to go forward with, what's first. And I think you've done that with the water. The sanitary.
And you agree tower first.
I'm not going to hold you to it.
Yeah, I'd have to really think that through. If you weren't going to grow, yeah. But if you wanted to grow, how do you serve that growth? And where do you want to grow? And do you want to drive that, or you just want to wait for somebody to find a cornfield outside of town and come to you? Or do you want to say, here is where we want growth. We economic development. This is where we think it makes sense for our community.
So what would be the alternative then, if you know you wanted somebody to develop in that field?
Well, they provide that infrastructure so that it's shovel ready as well.
Yeah. But I don't think you can provide that without starting here and working your way out.
Well, I think that helps determine what you would do.
I know.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I just don't see what you're saying makes a difference on putting the tower up.
No,
you said I put the tower first, unless I wanted to target growth somewhere. Well, you still got the same thing cutting you off at the knees.
I think it changes your project.
Yeah.
So you build the water tower next to the existing water tower.
Yeah.
It goes right next to it.
Yep.
And then you hook up to the existing lines. You detach that one and just plug them in over here.
We upgraded the lines close to the tower.
Yeah. Local water mains are getting upgraded. The bulk water supply moves off the street. I don't know. Did we have a street? I know we put bulk water there with a nicer facility to fill in. I don't know if we redid the street next to it or not to kind of get rid of the damage that's been caused by filling water tanks there for 50 years on the sunken area and that. But yeah, that whole thing gets redone. Yeah.
So yeah, the water tower, it's low hanging fruit. It's also the most expensive fruit. But it's something that it wouldn't be a bad project. It wouldn't be darn, we shouldn't have done that. You need to do it, and it really is the source of everything else. But again, is there providing infrastructure for growth? Does that change that equation? And I don't know that you have thought that through about where would you want to drive growth, what kind of growth, with some of the bigger picture things, the trail, school district, highway.
Well, trail's dead.
Is it?
Yes.
Or are there things that you could do that would?
There may be a short segment that we could do, but it's.
Yeah, it'd be a short thing we would do ourselves. But as far as trail connecting through the thing, that doesn't even enter my mind anymore. I mean, it dead ends out in the middle of nowhere. I don't see anybody stepping up and putting the money into it ever.
Is that middle of nowhere the cool new residential subdivision? Do we have a nice connection to downtown Hannah City?
No, it's out west of Farmington, the middle strip.
I'm saying if you were to grab a segment, where's the end of that segment? Is that end now? Cornfield could be residential subdivision.
Oh, our smaller segment would be
And does that change how you
Eden or something like that, or be somewhere close here?
Peoria is shrinking, right? So why would we think Hannah City would grow? I'm just playing devil's advocate.
Absolute questions that I think should be asked, huh?
Peoria shrinks, why would Hannah City grow?
Again, if economic
Peoria is shrinking like population-wise, where those people go.
It's because there's no job.
Well, I think it's the fact that
Well,
the number of
right
jobs and other things are decreasing.
Who's doing what?
Morton is getting ready to have a new facility put in.
There's a lot of people moving east, Rivian, all that. They're buying up that. Peoria even got hot for a minute because of that. But nobody's coming this far.
Yeah, I can't think of Jeff Kaufman said it in one of our meetings, and I can't remember what it was. But Morton has got a new facility going over there, and it's going to be 500 some jobs.
There's supposedly a new Amazon facility coming in, I think, somewhere over there.
That's going to be in Pekin.
There was 2 of them, I think, though.
So that's Pekin. And then there's another facility in Morton.
So does Hannah City want to set itself up to lure something like that?
They're not next to the others. I mean,
like
you're not going to get a factory or anything like that. I mean, you might as well wish for a Lowe's too.
Bellevue's got a better chance of getting that than we do. I mean, you just got.
I want to think realistically, and somebody that may come forward and build a handful of houses or something.
So then that's where we shift the focus to. Yeah, if we're not going to.
That would be the ideal thing. I mean, close to Peoria and not Peoria. That was Dunlap's big draw. It's Washington's big draw. Close to Peoria, but not Peoria. I mean, that's what I mean. That's our. I mean, we have the same type of thing. I mean, think we'd ever explode like North Growth Cell or anything like that. But I mean, moderate. I mean, I don't think we're that bad of an option. We're close to the interstate, and
That's why I'm.
So it sounds like our opinion might be our own existing infrastructure, what we have now.
So it's 10%. Would you consider? I'm sorry. What was your question?
I was just saying, it sounds like we might not be too worried about actual residential growth, maybe. I mean, an industrial park sounds, I mean, that's out there for a small town.
I think residential growth would be more
likely
than any type of commercial.
What I
We
would
had
be
something on the horizon. I mean, we almost just had, what's their names? We're going to set up that shop and stuff down.
And I think that probably will eventually happen.
Right.
But
if that's
I guess
happen, we do need to prepare this kind of thing for that as well.
But in the next 10 years, what % growth would you consider exciting? 10%? 60 homes? Is that too many?
That'd be insane.
In the next, 10 years?
That'd be crazy.
That'd be more than the last 10 years.
Well, how many have been built in the past 10?
5? 10?
So 10 is 60 too many?
I think it's aggressive.
30?
If you look backwards, it is.
Yeah.
Who can predict the future? But yeah.
Yeah.
Here, what I'm trying to back into is, let's say it's 30 homes. Okay, how much infrastructure are we talking about for 30 homes? Is that one neighborhood? I don't know. I'm not trying to be
I think it's still pretty abstract where it would be and what it would be. That's why I'm more concerned with almost making sure that when it happens, we can do it by, getting our system adequate now, because it's not adequate the
and
way
there's
it
other
is.
benefits beyond growth. So, I mean, just serving our current community.
I mean, you could do a $100,000 study and map this all out and say, we want 100 homes in this field, we want 30 in this field. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You can make that decision 10 years from now. You can just make your infrastructure in town good enough that you can expand it on the sides that make sense. You don't have to literally plane down to the individual home 20 years from now where it's going to go to. You can think more in broad strokes right now. It isn't like we're tweaking something that's really close here. We have a tiny tower and crappy water supply on the edge of town, so we're not looking to put the finishing touches on something. I mean,
I hear you.
But if we've got something potential that might happen like down to that corner,
yeah,
are we set up to handle that right now?
I don't know. Probably not.
Well, then that's something that could happen.
Yeah. So you got to get water there. So, I mean, that's my point.
We might find some leaks.
That's my point. You're not going to add on to there and do anything until it's improved what we already have here in town. So,
And I don't know where the drive come from to expand. I mean, you're a profitable village, and you have obviously your fair share of stuff that needs repaired, but you're a small town village.
mm-hmm.
I mean, why not make what we got the best instead of?
Make the existing system so it can be added on to and it can be expanded.
And I'm not saying it's not an attractive town, but just drive through here and say, I'm going to live there one day. It's not.
Blackout patches of the highway through town and stuff. So I know the lighting's on there further.
But why not make it that?
Exactly.
Why not get the infrastructure
And maybe that's the direction.
set to be one of those,
Well, and keep in mind, we're going to spend $100,000 a year, probably next year, updating homes and businesses with
That'll help a lot.
BDD money. So
Take that
and
corner
we can
through
do that
town.
for 21 years if we keep the program.
Yeah, and
the same.
it's just not necessarily build it and they will come though. So we put so much money towards an infrastructure for something that may or may not happen. If they are going to come and we know they're coming, then we can invest that money because
But
we're going to
there's
get a
benefits.
return on it.
Even if they
Benefits
don't,
for the
though, if you don't
same
maintain
homes
the
are
infrastructure, you'll circle the bowl like so many other small towns here have, and
I
be
mean-
forced to sell it off eventually, and then
Yeah, I mean, adding the infrastructure, it seems
Yeah.
necessary.
But what's the percentage chance that build's going to happen? Do you think?
I don't know when, but I would, in my mind, I think it's probably 80.
In the next 5 years?
Well, with the new water tower, how far away are we from supplying them?
So in the next 5 years, there's an 80% chance we're going to have a build right there.
maybe one building though. You're not talking strip mall or anything, so
Right.
it's not a
They
giant.
had talked about maybe some office supply or
Could be a
office-
retail place, but there also could be more kind of the commercial fish place too. So again, I don't know how much water that. I'm assuming that's going to demand some water. So
So if we got that coming up in potentially 5 years.
Or whatever. Yeah, I mean that's what I mean. It's
Just across from Casey's there.
Oh, that's not far out.
Yeah, so
I mean, nothing's that far out.
You say corner. I didn't know
So
which
pretty
corner.
much it
I would
just
change my
comes
answer
down
from no
to
from
satisfying our current residents.
Well, there's benefit to the current residents by,
Right.
you know, doing
Yeah.
the water tower. It's not just for growth.
Right.
exactly.
But if we're, let's call it $4 to $5 million away from lining every sewer, putting in the water tower, updating all the water lines.
Well, that's not the $1 million wasn't updating every line in town. That was just a
Well,
number
that's
to start
almost,
with. That's not gonna replace every line in town. That's just a really healthy number if you put the tower. If you be doing a decent amount of work around the outside of it, then.
And then it defaults to the 5-year rotating plan, basically.
And that $1 million may be something you just planned on when you put up the
that's
tower. You
what
kind of let it
needs
dictate
to
where you
happen,
go.
right? That's unfortunately, there wasn't an existing plan put into place 50 years ago to keep all this afloat. So now we got to get back to zero, get back to the baseline, get everything fixed, and then you develop your 5, 10-year, 20-year plans to keep everything up to date. And if you got enough, we got enough money to borrow $6 million. If you need $2 million we do.
Yeah, you could. Yeah.
It sounds crazy, but it's not. You're a big business. As a village.
I think one way or another,
I don't
you're
want to have
replacing
to
the old
make
one.
those payments.
You're replacing the old loan with the new loan.
But yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you. It's just a different way of thinking, right? Than where we've
It's
been.
proactive.
It's the way things get done. It's money talks, and
Rod, be quiet.
I am quiet.
Making you nervous?
No, I'm glad to see all you young men. Thoughts?
It's yeah, I mean, but there's risk, right? There's risk with all that.
One way or another, you're replacing that old loan with a new loan.
not a lot though, right? I mean, you just did the math.
Yeah, it's not that it's a risk. It
We can't lose. all of this
eventually
income.
needs to get done. It's, do you want to stick your feet in and just get a little done, or do you want to just jump in and get it all done?
You'll never get a little done and get caught up.
Right.
At $20,000 or $5,000 a month, you're not
The
going to do a water
the
tower.
water tower does us no good if our lines are leaking like a sieve, and if the sewer's not fixed, then that's a mess. It's all kind of got to go together.
The $5,000 a month is good for keeping up on things once you get it there, but to make that big jump to get a tower put up or something, I mean, do the math, and be a long time before we replace that tower. If we just wait until we had $2 million in the bank, it's $5,000 a month or whatever we're putting for water capital.
But I want to challenge the cash flow. I don't think we have the cash flow to borrow $6 million. You think we do?
Yeah. Well, maybe not in straight up cash, but you do in your other funds. I mean, you can bond against income you currently have
Probably
coming
tapping a
in.
lot of buckets.
I'm just saying, if we're going to have to service that loan, you're talking, let's call it $30,000 a month.
Yep.
So can
And we're
we,
putting away 14, half that now. So that means we got to find another 15,000 a month, right?
can we work a little backwards? Like, I'm thinking, like, if Jim was here, he'd be like, you can go ahead and do the water tower, but you better be ready to fix all those lines as soon as you put
Agreed.
that tower.
Well, if you have that $1 million, I think the $1 million is probably sitting there, and then you find out when you put up the tower, where are we spending it at?
Right.
You know,
Or do you
you
tackle
have-
some of the older lines first while you're preparing?
well, they have some of that, but it may walk its way down there, maybe,
Because he's got some already. He's like, this area here is probably going to be a problem, right? So can you take a look at some of that older stuff, prep some of that?
Yeah, if you got he may know too. He may say, if you got $1 million saved up, then just put this on the books right now. We do the tower.
He does. He's got, we sat down and looked through our priorities. Some of it's fixing old lines, some of it's looping so we have better pressure distribution, and some of it's we'll find out when they burst. But he does have a plan that we put together. Now, I'm not sure we put detailed costs to it. We just tried to prioritize.
And some of those areas would be pull and replace or whatever, abandon and replace, but we'd be probably upping the size of the line we put in to replace it too. And
And then,
Well, if we operated $100,000 surplus this year, that's another $8,000 roughly.
then we pull every meter out of the house. When we redid the water main, we put all
That's
meters in
halfway
the yard.
there. No, it's
Right.
84.
Yeah.
22.
If you're spending that much money, that's pennies on the dollar there. You might as well get those out of the house right now.
Well, I'll make it easy for
We
you.
won't borrow six.
We don't
I would say we won't do that.
We
but
want the
I think-
sewers done, so we don't end up with anything in our basements.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the other thing is like we can plan for a while, for a year, and then TIF's going to grow. Hopefully, BDD grows to some degree. I mean, but the flip side of that is, inflation's up, so all of our costs are probably going to be up when we build next year's budget.
We could service the 4. I mean, 3 would be pretty safe. We can service $1 million loan.
Can you replace the lines, like make them bigger without replacing the main lines? Like, can you do the farthest out and work this way?
You wouldn't want to have it.
I
a
do.
10-inch or 2-inch going.
No,
to a
you
10-inch.
don't.
No.
You want to. You thought you had bad pressure before.
So that water just pools at the end.
Yeah, you will. Yeah.
Well, I don't want to drag this out too much further. I would like a little feel for, does using economic development money give you a warm fuzzy or make you feel bad?
We know Zach's
Well-
answer.
Well, Zach,
And he should be.
I'm all for infrastructure. I think it's kind of reflects badly on the village if we neglect our infrastructure and they see us buying new signs and fancy lighting for our streets. So that's my piece. I think infrastructure should come first, regardless of how much I want to play with BDD money.
Want a new sign, or you want to get the shampoo out of your hair?
Yeah.
He doesn't have any, Aaron.
How about adjusting utility rates?
That's why he got it.
Warm fuzzy, don't want to do it.
Let me just do
That one's not on the table.
So I figured sour.
We just did water.
And Brian, I'll get the most updated sheet too, and I'll get as much free work as I can out of Bernardi Securities. They'll come up with something. Show us exactly what we'll have left and where
Okay,
we're
so this
standing.
is what I sense. I sense we may not want to take the giant swing, but I feel like we may want to take a bigger bite than just what we've been doing so far, which
I
is
think actively plan for it.
I think essentially you're going to replace that loan with the same size loan.
My
At
opinion is
least.
to go the biggest to figure out what we need and what we'll have to do everything that we want to do. And then you just work backwards. If this is too much, okay, well, this is our priority list. Number 5's coming off. I mean, that's
Yeah.
start at your biggest one and then come back to reality.
so right now is the biggest one the water tower.
Am I going to get sewer ran into my basement?
We can run all the sewer you want in your basement.
I'm just asking.
You just want us to dump it?
No,
Oh,
I'm just asking, is that a
You don't have sewer?
possibility
You don't have.
if they don't reline the sewers
Does it happen
soon?
now? Doesn't happen now.
No, but it's happened in Farmington to several homes.
well, it
I'm
depends on
confused.
where.
Are you saying you're getting sewer in your basement now?
No.
Oh.
It just
I
depends.
said, am I
He wants to
expecting
know
sewer
if
if
that's
we
gonna
don't
happen.
do
If we don't
the
know.
sewer lines? I mean, what kind of condition are we going?
What's the
I don't
date?
think it's going to start randomly happening to you if it hasn't
Okay.
happened before.
No, it's never happened.
Yeah, then I wouldn't worry about it.
I mean, is my line gonna smash?
Well, that's your lateral. That's your problem. It is. It's your lateral. We don't go replacing people's laterals up in their houses.
I don't know how they work.
If that's in
That's your
poor
job.
condition.
So let's get back on. It's a good discussion, though. I think it's
Yeah.
it's the next step to where we are. We've established ourselves operationally. We are putting capital aside, but the capital we're doing is kind of we're picking and choosing, and we're doing streets, but not necessarily doing sewer, and we need to coordinate all of that.
I still wouldn't discount something not 100, antique looking light posts through there, but I know we're going to do the facade. Hopefully a lot of people along the main corridor apply for the facade stuff to make everything look nicer. And then I think we got to look at something moderate that lights that way. It is depressing when you come through town and there's stretches of highway in the middle of town that is pitch black, that you don't have a nice lighted thoroughfare the main way through town, the commercial way through town. So I wouldn't discount that. I mean, I know this is all pretty raw, big picture stuff here, but I still think that's
on the
without
CEDC's agenda.
My last thing was, if
See?
you guys were interested, John said he will come to the next meeting if we'd like.
That's you and I talking. Gotta go through some
Just
things.
if we have any questions, he's obviously, that part's free.
Looks like we're gonna need to replace the happy part of the holidays sign.
Yeah, that's pretty depressing. Yeah.
Just my wife said
It's not wrong.
Have a holiday.
At least it just says holidays instead of just happy.
My wife said this in town is happy.
It's holidays, okay? Take it or
I'm
leave it.
sorry, that's what I
So
would
Brian, you want to continue?
I'm done with the long
Suck
range
the happy
plan.
right out of the side, didn't you?
We got
End of the report.
Huh? Yeah. Thank you guys for taking time to do that.
Planning and zoning. Mr. Johnson.
Oh, I have nothing.
Sanitation sewer.
Nothing for sanitation.
Water.
Water, I've got some numbers for you. 2 shutoffs for $5,902.02. 0 level pay. 1 foreclosure for $511.93. Approximate gallons sold is 2,083,848. My eyes can see that quickly.
Yeah, I like you're old or something.
I'm getting there.
Anything else?
No, sir.
No checks out of escrow?
No.
Okay. Those and grounds, Mr. Weaver?
I don't have anything.
Streets and alleys, Mr. Weaver.
Run streets and alleys either.
Okay. CEDC, Mr. Sidak.
Right, we have 2 things here. First one I'd like to draw your attention to is the commercial/residential redevelopment program timeline. Ryan has been very proactive on communicating this to the community. I think I've already seen one of the posts on our Facebook page. Just a sort of timeline, introducing the idea to the community. There's going to be some eligibility postcards, different reminders, and timelines of applications that can come through.
I was gonna ask, you're doing like a mailer or something?
Yeah, with the actual Jacob and Klein does a postcard that goes to anybody's home that's eligible, and any business that's eligible will receive it.
Right.
We already sent out a communication, which is the second page in here. This is the communication we sent out last week, and then we're going to send out follow-up communications on our stuff. In the first part of the year. Then the postcards come out, and we'll remind people when the applications come out. Applications will come out in February, and then we'll schedule a meeting in April to begin reviewing applications and hopefully have something for you guys to look at in May with the new budget. That's kind of our plan.
Exciting stuff. And then the second thing here is an amendment to I think it's just to the TIF district. And all that is just removing the parcel from Lakeshore Drive.
Yes, we had one board members can't own property within the TIF district, or if they do that, there's a whole process for declaring it. Whatever. Ryan's is the only one that's currently in it, and so we have to go through a process to pull his out. That's what this does. If you approve it, Ryan cannot vote on this. He has to abstain. But once he abstains and then this is pulled out, assuming it is, then you can vote freely on everything moving forward.
What's weird is they show my house as almost not being in town, period. Mine doesn't have the hatch lines on it.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I had her check everything.
I mean, I don't think I'm in it, but they don't show the hatch.
We were deducted last year.
So I mean, they just don't have my lot hatched, that it's excluded. It's almost like it's not even part of town.
Yeah, it just goes around.
Yeah, that's what. You think it is?
I don't know. What's you? Where's you?
Oh, this one right here with nothing
We
on it.
already decided we
Yeah,
can't
that's
read
right.
maps.
You will.
Oh no, we introduced another map. There goes Caleb. You've lost it for half an hour.
So I don't know. I mean, it's almost like they say my lot's not part of town as opposed to excluded from the TIF. So
That's something we voted on last.
yeah, I would just have them.
We just don't want to acknowledge.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't let them read the minutes.
Yeah, That was expunged from town.
Is there a house we need to add back on?
No, they said you can't.
Oh.
I followed up on that. but
Oh,
yeah.
so if a trustee gets up, then that house has just been out.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well,
Leave the board here to discuss.
I mean, they're
Yeah,
the
it's
group
just a-
that voted to make the district. That's probably
So
why.
once you're out, huh? Whoever moves in.
The property's out, but yeah, somebody who moves into it, they're not eligible for it either.
But you can move next door and do
I'm not intending on moving.
So we have ordinance 2212-01, Village of Hannah City, and ordinance approving the First Amendment to the Village of Hannah City Tax Increment Financing District Redevelopment Project Area Plan and Project. All this does is remove, for clarification, it just removes the property at 608 North Lakeshore, lots 26 and 27 of the Lakeshore subdivision in the Village of Hannah City.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Sidak. Second by Cherravali. Any further discussion? I have to record these. So. Start with Pearson.
Abstain.
Cherravali.
Yes.
Sidak.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Yes, me.
Yes.
Weaver. Yes. Motion carries.
I just hope I get reelected.
Flip Miller. Flip Miller is absent.
Oh, yeah, because I missed that one.
And I need you guys, whoever needs to sign it, I need to get that signed so I can send it back to them because we got like 10 days or something to print it in. It's a crazy thing.
Motion carries.
And that is the end of my report.
Ryan, you only need one vote or something?
One vote, that's all you need.
Yeah, just for me.
Just vote for yourself. You have a good job.
Hopefully I don't mess that up.
Well, I think when I ran for my first board seat, I think when I actually ran, I think I had like 4 people voted for me. It was just my neighbors. Under administration, looks like there were 11 calls. Some were duplicates. Served papers, disorderly conduct. Stand by, keep the peace. Disorderly conduct, business check. 11 for, the dates were December 11th through December 17th. I don't think I have a current one of that. Nope, that's the current one that I have. So, does anybody else have anything else to bring before the board? Our next board meeting is January 3rd, 2023. Wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Please be safe with your families. Enjoy the time. And then we'll see everybody back in after the New Year. Meeting adjourned.
Hope that was fun for you, Abby.